Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
This is the latest disclosure, a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Wait a minute, something's happening. Humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. We love you all, whether you're listening to iHeartRadio, IRN, or the several other hundreds, it seems, affiliates that are carrying this show live. Welcome. And we appreciate you guys making, get this, Greg, Deeper Cuts a smash hit. Just throwing that out there.
What was there any doubt?
Well, no, I had some doubt, but it has become a smash hit phenomenon. And of course, I'm Joel Sturgis, and of course, in the co-host seat.
Joel, this is Greg Bakken. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great, man. I am doing great, but I was just about to say, it was a great show last week. We turned some heads having Andrea Perrin on, and she definitely switched gears on us. We were not expecting that. But still very humbled and happy she did so, because we were able to actually go quite off topic with her. And people really responded to that.
I was going to say, I think that really helped define what we're going to be doing here. I think it really helped us kind of figure out that, there's, and as you had said last week, sometimes there's more important things to talk about than just the paranormal, and sometimes we just have to be able to go kind of roll with that a little bit.
Sometimes you have to be ready. When a guest comes on, you have to shift those gears quick and just follow them where they're going. And hopefully you can add something of intelligence along the way. But it was a great show, great interview, definitely a very politically charged interview, which I was not expecting. But then again, she is and has been an activist for many years. Yeah. And so it was interesting to get her take on a lot of things that's going on. Now, Greg, we generally do the news right now, but I want to throw something out there, and I want your thoughts on this. I was approached by an individual that champions something called the psychomantium. Now, will you go ahead and explain to me, because I was not familiar exactly what this was. Could you explain to me what the psychomantium is?
No, I can't.
Oh,
because
good.
I still don't quite understand it. We've talked about it.
Yeah, okay. Now, the principle, though, to set it up is what? Nothing more than a mirror and a candle, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And so this individual I talked to champions this as being able to talk to grandma that's passed, right? You could have grandma come and talk to you or whatever. Okay, but here's the deal, and I did some looking around, talked to a few people, and talked to you and a few other really knowledgeable people in the paranormal, and they all shook their head and they said, oh, absolutely not. That is a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because it seems that there is no controlling this psychomantium. Basically, a psychomantium is nothing more than a mirror and a candle in a dark room. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing that worries me about it is that you don't know what you're going to get to come through. I mean, like you said, you might be able to get a loved one, be able to say hello, but the other side of it could be much worse.
Well, that's exactly it. And I kind of thought to myself, wow, that'd be a lot like sending all of our listeners a Ouija board for Christmas, right? Here you go. Contact the dead at your own volition.
Right. And, the thing is, though, too, about that is, when you say that, when you put it that way, I think that a lot of paranormal investigators out there might be like, well, we kind of have that with power with just about anything we use. But the thing is is that this to me feels a lot more raw and a lot more random. I don't know why. It just feels like that this is something that is really, I've heard about this being used in different areas and people getting way out of whack being in that room while it happens. And that, to me, that's like, well, if you can't control that, if you can't be able to have good communication, then that's a problem.
Sure. And the reason why I bring it up is because I was asked to participate in a mass study of the psychomantium and maybe even urge our listening audience to take part in it with this individual in the name of collecting data for science. I'm not comfortable with that, and I don't mean to be your to speak for everybody here, because there might be a few listeners who are like, let me give it a try. And if you decide to try it, that's all on you guys, not a problem. I respect if you guys want to try something like that, but this guy, I'm kind of chicken to do it, to be honest with you. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen too many Hollywood horror movies.
Yeah, this doesn't seem, to me personally, and like you said, everyone has the right to do whatever they want to do, but this to me feels like that this isn't really quite the right way to go about it. I mean, everyone has their own preferred method. This isn't it for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I know there was an argument, not so much argument, a discussion that isn't EVP kind of same thing, isn't Ghost Box kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
doesn't all kind of come down to intent, doesn't all kind of come down to what the user wants out of it. And I guess there is some argument to be made there, but doesn't necessarily mean that us in the media should facilitate that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It is. I mean, and I don't really understand what the end goal is for this. I mean, you and I kind of talked about it a little bit, but I really don't understand what the overall purpose is for trying to get so many people involved.
I have no idea. I do believe it is for mass data purposes again, but then again, if you want to take part in it, you absolutely can. That's entirely up to you guys, but hey, it is what it is. Tonight we got a great show, though, on tap. We got Eric Altman coming on with us. We're talking Bigfoot. We're shifting gears big time, going into the land of the creepy cryptid.
Yeah, no, that's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. What do you think, Greg? You a Bigfoot guy? You believe in Bigfoot, or are you on the fence?
I do. As it happens, I do believe in Bigfoot. And the reason why I do is because, like I said the other night, I don't think that I'm in a position to be able to say what exists and what doesn't exist. And I feel like one of the parts that I really enjoy about talking with people like Eric or Abe Del Rio, all these people, is talking about their experience and what evidence that they have put together and what makes makes sense, what doesn't make sense. But I mean, everybody who has these separate experiences seem to have very similar experiences. Don't you think so, Joel?
I think so. I do. I don't think any of them are the same. And it would seem that there's just, and we're also going to talk about this, more than just Bigfoot out there as well.
Oh, yeah.
So Bigfoot has kind of like become a Band-Aid term for everything. People have said, I've seen a dog man, and then they say, well, I saw a Bigfoot, and I say, well, which is it? And of course, Bigfoot is the cryptic term, for cryptid creatures. So they
right.
say, well, it's a Bigfoot. Well, no, it was a dog man. And we'll get into that with Eric and talk about the different critters and people that have seen them and how it's affected his own life and his own journeys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Really, quite honestly, see how, because it has to change a person when they come to that realization that, holy this is real.
Yeah, it sure is. And the funny thing is like, getting ready for this week, I've listened to a couple different podcasts, a couple different radio shows, watched some Finding Bigfoot, dare I say it, watched some Mountain Monsters, and, getting ready for it. And, some of the people, especially the ones who you find believable, the way that they express and they talk about their experience is actually, it's life-changing for these people. And that's the really cool thing about it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I think it's the coolest factor right there is the people's individual stories. Mm-hmm. How did that affect you after you had this brush with what you thought was nothing more than an urban legend? And we were in Reamer, and basically is now what Reamer calls themselves, the home of Bigfoot. which several sightings have been there. You were there with me, Greg, and we were walking the streets of Reamer, and I talked to a few people about what they thought of Bigfoot, and of course the town is completely covered in Bigfoot. You know, it really is. Yeah, everywhere you go, the gas station is the Bigfoot gift and gas. Come on, I mean it's everywhere, and they really bought into this. But they all had a story, you know, that was just absolutely that was just cool. You know, like, well, I saw Bigfoot doing this. And I saw Bigfoot doing that, and I saw him in this situation. I saw him in that situation. And of course, one thing that I can say for all of them is that they were shaken in some way about seeing a Bigfoot, that it had changed their world view of things, that they actually became more open about even the existence of ghosts. Like, if they weren't a believer, they'd be like, well, this can exist, why can't that?
I find that to be very telling. When someone might say that they've seen Bigfoot and they just talk about it matter of fact, whereas I think if you've seen Bigfoot or whatever sort of creature out there, I think you're going to know it not only by visually, but you're going to feel that creature in a way that you've never felt anything else in your life.
Yeah.
So I think we've all been doing this sort of thing long enough that when someone says, I've seen Bigfoot, and it just is kind of just like as a statement, I think it's very clear, to me at least, when they're mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you're on the streets of Reamer, outside all of the pomp and circumstance, this is the home of Bigfoot,
Absolutely.
What was your feeling of the place?
I loved it. You know, I mean, in terms of being a small town and everything, I loved it. You know, the thing is like you look and you see all of these woods. You see all of these people on four-wheelers and doing all of this kind of going through these dirt tracks and stuff and doing all sorts of things. It's like I can understand how hard it would be to find a Bigfoot in that area because there's all this commotion going on. On the other hand, and perhaps there's this too, that maybe all the commotion kind of brings them out a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if they're, parade goers or anything like that.
Well, you never know. They might be big on festivals.
They might be. I mean, don't forget, they were selling the Bigfoot whoopee cushion.
They were. They were selling the Bigfoot whoopee cushion. And that's the thing is I get it. I mean, the town has taken the Bigfoot lore and turned it into also a marketing device.
Yeah,
and they're not the first town to do that. They're far from the first town to do that with a creature or a ghost or what have you. But these people genuinely, though, they believe that there is something in their woods, and that's something that was striking to me because generally you get that wink and a nod, like there's a Bigfoot around here, But they actually all believed it. Now, I did not get the opportunity to see a Bigfoot in a Reamer, but other than the one in the the suit that was running around the main street.
The highly realistic suit.
Yeah, the highly realistic suit, but, not to say that other people haven't, and some even said they saw a Bigfoot during the festival, a legitimate one in their mind.
Yeah. The thing is, too, is about Reamer and the possibility of having a creature like Bigfoot there is like we've had two very credible people in the past, didn't see one that weekend, but tell us about their experiences in Reamer, and to me that's just like that seems very plausible to me, and that helps me a lot too. I mean, once again, we're heading towards dense woods, right? So obviously,
oh God, yes, they're horribly dense.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if there's going to be a place where these creatures are, that's a very good possibility that they could be there.
Why not? As good a place as any, really, that I've seen.
Absolutely.
Why not be there? And of course, that is all cool, and we'll be taking part, me and Greg, in a few more of these expeditions looking for Bigfoot. I guarantee you that one right there. We got to get out there, Greg, again and see what goes bump in the woods.
Well, they also have the music festival, don't they? In
they
September?
Do in September. They got the Bigfoot Music Festival coming up. I do believe it's the second weekend in September. We have been invited, so if we do want to show up, we are more than welcome to go. I would like to go, but we will see what our schedules look like. No promises, guys, but we will make every effort to get out there. But we do have a really cool event coming up. Why don't you tell the people about it, Greg, over there at the Old Sock Center?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is August 11th through 13th, the paranormal team, Things That Go Bump Minnesota, has been doing this sort of thing for a little while now, about 4 or 5 times, and they're going to be putting on a public paranormal investigation at the Palmer House, which, as we have mentioned before, has been seen in such shows as Ghost Adventures, and it's been rated as the #1 haunted hotel in America by USA Today, which is a pretty big honor, and it got them a lot of notoriety, which they well deserved. The problem with what people think of the Palmer House sometimes is they think it's because of like places like Ghost Adventures and whatnot. They think it's kind of this dark and horrible, scary place, and in fact, it couldn't be anything further from the truth. Spirits there are nothing but love. They're kind. The place is amazing. It's historic. It's clean. It's beautiful. The people who work there are amazing. And we're having a paranormal investigation there. And tickets are running out. And we're running. And honestly, this is, if you always said, Joel, you've had friends who always said, I want to know what it's like to do a paranormal investigation. I wish someone would show me how. The people who run Things That Go Bump Minnesota, which would be John and Ryan and their team, they go through that Saturday. They go through the proper way of doing a thoughtful and careful investigation. And then that night, we are all there, and we take parts of the hotel, and groups get moved around to different parts of the hotel, and we do different things and different sort of paranormal investigations in different parts of the hotel. And normally, and I don't know if it's going to work that way this year, but Nicole and I, we're up like on the 3rd floor doing spirit box and doing other sorts of things up there. And every single time, people are blown away by what happens.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to Ryan Headley, and he's the guy that was, the one that's putting this on. Again, Go Bump Minnesota. Great people, top-notch folks, but he actually asked me to speak there, which... if you've never met me in person, I'm actually kind of a shy guy off the microphone. I don't know if you already knew this, Greg. I really am. So if you come up to me and talk to me not on the microphone, I'm like, oh, okay, yep, good seeing you, yep. I'm trying to come on my shell a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that I have been working with sound now. Oh, better part of my adult life, and EVP has been where it's been at for me. And I've really experimented a lot with how this works, what is behind an EVP, and what's the gears that drive it. Not that it's there, but how is it there? Because we all know it's there because we all hear it.
Yeah.
But what's the nuts and bolts that makes it come out the way it does? And I have some theories on that. I do believe it comes down to hertz, and it comes down to our own human hearing because we are damn near deaf compared to dogs, let's just say. I think there's a lot more to it than just, a voice in the night. I do believe that there's a lot of environmental factors as well that go into an EVP, not just the fact the voice is there. So I will be speaking about that over there at the Palmer. I look forward to it, and kind of showing the audience if they ever wanted to submit their stuff, like to someone like me, someone that does a lot of analysis, or even to the college departments. They're actually starting to do that. UCLA actually has a hush EVP lab that they will listen to EVP, by the way. If you want them to listen to it, they will, and they will see what's making it happen, and they run it through what they call an audio scope. And they will tell you exactly how it's there and the way it's layered. And it's very, very cool stuff. Very technical. Way more than I want to go into right now. But you're going to have to come to my speaking engagement to hear all that technical stuff. But I will also show them or teach them how to collect evidence to their standards, a scientific standard.
Absolutely. And I really do hope that it's formally called Hush Hush EVP. I really am. Really
Hush Hush EVP. Shut up.
But I have had the luck of taking a sneak peek at what Joel's going to be talking about. And what I like about what you're doing is that it's going to be kind of a fresh take on EVPs. And no offense, but you're so old now that
I am old.
Analog. So,
I do. The first one I had was a reel-to-reel.
Right. So I mean, you're coming from an area that actually you're younger than I am, but we're coming from an area that you've been able to go from analog to digital, And I think that's going to be part of the, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be some of the stuff you're going to be talking about a little bit, which I think is very interesting.
Both media have pros and cons to them. You know, analog, digital, both of them are equal in their pros, their cons. You know, analog, of course, a lot of people have said, of course, that's no secret here. I'm not breaking any new ground, but analog gave longer EVP. But I'm also going to tell you why that happens.
Yeah.
You know, what's the difference between a microprocessor and magnetic tape? And why is it a little bit, what's the difference when actually the voice is heard on a tape versus digital? Mm-hmm. And mainly, and some of them, I'll give you a sneak peek, digital is made by man. It's geared to be frequencied for your hearing. When they make a digital recorder, they're not making it going, you know what, we're going to let them run out there and capture ghosts with this. No, they're making it so you can dictate what you want at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So, you know, where analog really doesn't have that ceiling that a digital does. Analog only hears what it hears, and it can go actually further into the hertz spectrum than digital could ever be able to.
Now, can I ask, are you planning on having any samples at this presentation?
Several. Yeah, several samples.
I mean,
some on analog and then some on digital. I will show the differences in quality as well of what you can hear. You know,
and I think this is a great example of why an event like this works really well, because it's not going to be like, you know, hey, rah, the latest paranormal show. This is more of like, this is the nuts and bolts of what we do. Do you mind if I quickly go through who else?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely, Greg. I'd love that if you did that.
Because this is something that I think is very important, because this kind of creates the whole picture of what this event's going to be. And we're going to have Suzanne Worthley there, and she's an energy practitioner and intuitive. She's going to be taking a great deal of time. She does her own event, which is even a longer period of time that's fully comprehensive, but this for about 3 hours is pretty incredible. And she's going to walk us through all sorts of manners of how we can get closer to ourselves, so to speak, and how we can project a little bit more of that intuitiveness in ourselves. And her sister, Lisa, is going to be there also. She's a shamanic massage therapist and healer. She is phenomenal, and she's been after me for quite some time now to get in touch with her to get a massage to her, and I apologize, I haven't done so yet.
There might be a chance of getting massage here.
I don't know if she does it there. She might. Actually, she might. We'll have to ask her, and we can get you set up.
Well, heck yeah, man! Come on.
She did a little bit on me on the last event, and honest to gosh, you know, I mean, first of all, we're doing this in front of everybody, like when we're having some beers. So at first I was a little uncomfortable, but then you start, once you get over that silliness and just like, you know what, someone's doing something nice for you. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I know exactly how that goes.
And so then next thing I know, it's like, you know what, this isn't just a massage. This is actually really helping me in a lot of different ways. And so that was phenomenal. And it's like, it's embarrassing. And I'm going to be honest here on the air. It's embarrassing that I have not reached out to her yet. So there is that. Obviously, Nicole, who is part of Minnesota Ghost Box, which is my team, and I'm always kind of frightened to say it that way because she is so much more than just being part of my team. She's her own talented and amazing intuitive healer. She's a Reiki master. She's phenomenal. And so, you know, talking metaphysical with her, with Suzanne, with Lisa, honestly, I don't know if it can get any better than that. And when I first got into the paranormal stuff, Joel, I was just kind of like, you know, this is interesting, but, you know, the more I've been in it, this stuff is what I live now. I totally am a part of it. I totally get into it. And then finally, and there's no finally, there's Natalie Fowler. She's an author, freelance editor. She was at the last event that I did with Suzanne and Lisa and Nicole. And once again, another strong person who is intuitive, very strongly intuitive, and very, very nice person. So please consider coming to this if you can. If you're in the Sauk Center area, or if you're in Minnesota, or if you're not in Minnesota,
sure.
This is a real good event.
Yeah, only a few tickets left. I talked to Ryan on the phone over the weekend and just trying to get a feel of the size of the group. And he's only got like 15 or 16 tickets left. Not many at all.
No. And this thing always sells out. So please please. I mean, and I don't know about you, Joel, but many of my friends, they're always like, oh, I'd love to go on a paranormal investigation with you. Then do this. This is a smart thing to do.
Yeah, have fun, enjoy it, learn a little something, and of course we will be doing, as of now, a live remote from the Palmer After Hours AM, the Thursday show. We'll be doing a live remote, myself, Greg Bakken, and of course Mr. Eric Olson. We will be doing a remote, and it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll get some of those vintage Palmer House EVP over the microphones while we are doing the remote. And to be honest with you, that would not be the first time that has happened at a remote.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
You know, it's weird. I was, years ago, I was doing a remote. I want to say it was at a fairly well-known hotel, another one. It rhymes with Anley. And you know what I'm talking about. And we were doing the remote, and we were talking and doing our thing, and the next thing you know, we hear, and everybody that was listening caught it. I didn't catch it. And all the listening audience kept on emailing and calling and saying, well, you got this weird stuff going on. What's going on over there? And I went back and listened to the archive. Holy shnikes, there was a whole lot of EVP coming over, chiming in on what we were discussing. So that is always a possibility, and it is always freaky when it works like that. It's just always freaky.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. It'd also be amazing to do a live remote at a hotel that rhymes with Anley. So, you know, just keeping that out there, too.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do another one of those. We have that in the future as well. But, Greg, you know, we are waiting, of course, for Mr. Eric Altman because he is actually at the doctor's office, and he's making every effort to get over here to get live on air with us. So we are waiting for him. But in the meantime, we are going to probably do banter about ourselves, talk about some news, and he assures me via messenger that he is going to be home really, really quick. And so you will not miss out on Eric, and we will definitely be talking some crypto stuff tonight. You know, crypto, again, getting back to that really quick, it kind of scares me more than ghosts, and I'll tell you why. This is why crypto stuff scares me, is because I could walk theoretically through a ghost. You cannot walk through a 10-foot tall Bigfoot that's really, really angry.
Yeah.
You know, and hairy and just wants to rip you apart.
I guess I'm stuck on the fact that maybe after all this time, that Bigfoot actually is like a physical ailment, and that's what he's getting treated right now, and there isn't actually really such a thing as Bigfoot.
Are you saying that maybe it's a fungus you catch and eventually you turn into one?
Maybe.
That could be it. That really could be it. That could be really what turns people into Bigfoot, is not that they're born, they're made via fungus.
It's like the Incredible Hulk. You just kind of turn into one.
Yeah. Maybe that's how it works. Maybe it's kind of like the spider biting you. Next thing you know,
who knew that we're going to find the answer for it tonight? But here we are. We found the answer to Bigfoot.
We stumbled upon it, quite honestly, and here we are thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe there's something to that. Maybe it's people that were in the woods, got bit by something, and they became the big furry guy. But no, all joking aside, we don't believe that's what it is. But I also don't believe that he comes off the mothership.
You don't.
I don't. But Greg firmly does. So go ahead, send your hate mail over to Greg, and he'll be happy to field all that. But in the meantime, I do not believe that Bigfoot, though, is an alien, so to speak. I don't want to believe he comes off the mothership.
No, but what is kind of cool about Bigfoot, and what I love asking people, and I'm looking forward to talking with Eric about it, is the idea of this. You know, we you first sight of him, you think of this furry big creature, but the fact of their level of intelligence is overwhelming, and that's the thing that I find really interesting. I want to talk a lot with Eric about tonight.
Yeah, I do as well. The intelligence, they do seem to have a high level of intelligence. If they can elude mankind to the point that they have, and they would have to be masters of camouflage and masters of stealth, that would almost prove to probably be, in a lot of ways, smarter than we are.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because you would think that with all our fancy gizmo and gadgets, we would be able to find Bigfoot, not a problem. Oh, there he is, running around. Oh, see him on a thermal. But so far, Bigfoot has eluded all that kind of stuff.
He sure has.
But yet people still have thousands and thousands of sightings every year about Bigfoot. But we got to run a break, Greg. Boy, did this sneak up on us.
Yep.
We come back, we're going to cover some news brought to you by, of course, Minnesota Ghost Box. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Hey, you're listening to After Hours AM, and if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you like us, follow us, review us, tell your friends about us, tell grandma about us, and keep listening.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the Wacky Waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the Wacky Waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
You're listening to After Hours AM. Do you have a question for the guests or even the host? That's really easy. Go ahead and email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Are you feeling like picking up the phone and being part of the show? Call us at 612-326-6874, 612-326-6874. Come be part of the madness.
Well, this is Harold Schechter, and really happy to have been on the show. And you are listening to After Hours AM.
All right, Greg, go ahead.
And welcome back to After Hours AM. This is the Tuesday night Deeper Cuts edition. My name is Greg Bakken, and with me tonight, of course, my co-host Joel Sturgis. How you doing, Joel?
You know what? I'm doing great, man. I like this. I like that part of it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So far, so good?
So far, so good.
You're not just going to hang up on me?
No, God, no. I don't do that anymore. Not since the incident.
Anymore.
Not since the incident. So I don't hang up anymore because, yeah, man, I'm doing great. And, of course, we had a lot of fun in the first half hour talking about the event that's coming up, of course. That's a Palmer House. You're not going to want to miss that. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. You're going to be able to meet Greg, myself, Nicole, Lisa, Suzanne, Natalie. All of us will be there on hand and very accessible. That'll be August 11th through the 13th, 2017. Be there or be square. Again, the Palmer House in Sauk Center, Minnesota.
And just real fast, because we neglected to say this in the first half hour, to get details and tickets, you got to visit www.thingsthatgobumpmn.com. The MN is in like Minnesota, so it's www.thingsthatgobumpmn.com. So just keep that in mind, and please check it out. So that's that. So we got that out of the way, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Greg, you'll paper your whole ticket, but you'll paper the whole seat, but you only need the edge. Sorry, I had to go back to my monster truck roots. Sunday.
Sunday. So why don't we do this? Because we're waiting for our guest tonight, Eric Altman. He's going to be joining us as soon as he can, and that's going to be great. There's a lot of Bigfoot to talk about tonight, and not just Bigfoot, cryptozoology, all that good stuff. So we're going to do that. But Joel, I think what we need to do is some haunted news tonight.
I would love that. Let's do some haunted news, my friend.
And this is the special Bigfoot edition of Haunted News. Because of our guest, I figured that we should have a little bit of discussion around such things and talk a little bit about it. So the first thing that I want to read about is, the greatest bit of feedback I received last week from last week's first show was people were like, Greg, we need more stories about Rob Lowe. And I'm like, what?
Yes.
If the public demands it, the public needs to get it.
Exactly.
Right? That's how it works.
He doesn't get enough exposure being, one of the most beautiful men on television, plus being a millionaire. He doesn't get enough. So I agree. He has not got enough just due from us.
No. So I'd like to start off this section of this highly controversial section of Haunted News Bigfoot Edition with Rob Lowe saying he feared death during Bigfoot-like encounter. Everybody is seeing Bigfoot these days. Does that mean that we're going to be getting more exposure to Bigfoot, so to speak, very soon? I don't know, Joel. Anything's possible in this crazy day, in this crazy world we live in, I should say.
Sure. I mean, anything's possible. Maybe we'll see the big guy a little bit more. Maybe he'll make his presence known. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Greg, didn't Rob Lowe himself say he already saw a Bigfoot?
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about here.
Gotcha.
And how frightened he was.
I bet.
So, actor Rob Lowe says he thought he was going to be killed during an encounter with a Bigfoot creature while filming his new A&E docuseries. Lowe tells Entertainment Weekly that encounter took place in the Ozark Mountains, which stretch between Arkansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Lowe says he and his sons were camping there And locals as a wood ape. And during a shoot for the show, when something began to approach their camp, Lowe says he was lying on the ground thinking he was going to be killed. He adds that he's fully aware the story makes him sound like a crazy Hollywood kook. No, that's not the only reason.
Exactly.
But it is what he says. And the Lowe Files follows actors and sons Matthew and John Owen as they explore mysterious phenomena across the country.
Ooh, so, I'm going to have to tune into that one. If anything, to see Rob Lowe get eaten. Because no one's seen him since wait a minute, he was in Good Morning America the other day. Never mind. Yeah, I was hoping that maybe he became a snack. Yeah.
Well, it might be one of those things like the great Paul McCartney rumor that Paul McCartney died in like 1966. They found a lookalike who can play music even better than the original Paul McCartney. So maybe this is what we're seeing is like a fake Rob Lowe.
It could be. It really could be. They might have hired a body double to come in and fill the spot because we all know he got eaten by Bigfoot. Right now Bigfoot is having some really bad indigestion because of all the hair products. But when he passes that, I'm sure he'll be much happier hominid.
Well, you mentioned that you might be able to get him on at some point. I think the first question is, are you really Rob Lowe?
Are you really a Rob Lowe, or are you just the walrus? Which one are you? Cuckoo, cuckoo.
You're Billy Shears, aren't you?
You are.
So if that wasn't enough to keep us frightened, let's move on to, I know I said it's the Bigfoot edition, but why don't we move on to a little Chupacabra? What do you think about that, Joel?
I like Chupacabra. I like the El Chupacabra.
Then you're going to like this. Chupacabra sightings in California neighborhood. Let's see. On a foggy morning, more than a week ago, so it's breaking news, Kerry Shuker's cat raced into his Riverside home, terrified of something outside.
A shadow. Sorry.
It was its own shadow, as it happens. If it's my cats, it could be just someone walking. That's scary enough for them.
Yes.
This thing was standing out there looking at me, said Shuker, a private contractor who lives at the base of Box Springs Mountain, which divides Moreno Valley and Riverside. It was the ugliest looking thing. I'm still not certain that that's a Chupacabra.
No.
Shuker said the hairless creature glaring at him about 80 or 90 feet away had a tail like a rat or a possum with rippled pinkish skin, teeth jutting both up and down out of its jaws, and was at least 2 feet more longer than the biggest coyote you've ever seen. Or if you're in the Dakotas, it's coyote. Just remember that, okay?
Exactly.
I mean, if we're going to say it, let's just say it right.
The coyotes out there. Now, did the man, did he say whether he tried to pet the Chupacabra? Did he try to, maybe, throw a bone at it and make it play some fetch?
Well, I think the way you should do it, and this isn't a story, this is my feeling, you put out your hand like you would for a cat so they can smell your hand knowing that you're friend, and I don't think you'd have any problem after that.
I don't think you'd have any trouble with that hand anymore because it may be gone, Greg. Gone, Greg.
Then he can cosplay, or he could dress up as Halloween as Luke Skywalker.
Oh, that's cold. That is cold.
So you got that, okay?
You got that going for you. At least now you can double Skywalker.
Granted,
too bad.
Shuker is not necessarily Skywalker's age, but you know what? I've seen bad cosplay, so I believe that.
Sure. Well, good, bad. It's all cosplay, isn't it?
It is. It really is. I'm cosplaying as a radio person right now, and it's not actually very successful, but we're doing our best.
We're making it through the best we can. You're doing just fine. You're convincing as all hell, let me tell you. Where are we going next? What cool backwoods area are we going next?
Well, so just so you know, Shuker because there needs to be a resolution.
Oh, yes, there has to be.
And so he yelled in a big, deep voice, "Get out of here." And I'm sure that was enough. The creature snarled at him, then made as if to leave, but before it did, turned its back towards Shuker, snarling and chattering one more time. It was cussing me out, basically. I stole its breakfast. It was hunting my cat, Shuker said. That wasn't no coyote by any means. So,
wow. Man, well, a lot of people go to great lengths to save their pussycats. And, just staring down a Chupacabra, I'm not sure if I'd do that to save the cat, but hey, God bless him and his one less hand.
Well, and that's just it. I hate to say it, but I certainly would do the same thing when it comes to a cat. I have my 2 little cute cats, and
sure.
I think the world of them. So, yeah, I'd probably do the same thing and probably, would be buried shortly after. So, there's that.
We'll be there, reading your eulogy.
You'd be doing a live radio remote.
We'll take this opportunity to do a live radio remote here. And this is Greg's funeral.
After Hours AM T-shirt. And
laying here dead because he decided to challenge the Chupacabra. Even after we warned him about doing that, Greg was a man of few words, but even fewer brains. Thank God.
Just do a spirit box session, okay?
We'll definitely do that.
I will not disappoint.
No.
I will.
No.
I will not
I'm
disappoint.
sure
you may not like what I have to say, but I won't disappoint.
Well, just make it radio friendly, and we'll be all good.
So have we had enough of Chupacabras?
I don't know. I love the Chupacabra. I think it's pretty cool. If there's one more story about Chupacabra, I'm in, man. I love the Chupacabras.
Because clearly they're on the march. They're on the move. They're being seen more and more.
Chupacabra lives matter, man.
Yeah. They want equal say in how this country is being run. And so there's Chupacabra sightings in Texas. Some residents in Hood County say some unusual animals have been in the area lately. One rancher says he shot and killed what he believes is a Chupacabra. There have been 2 reports of the mythical animals in the past week, authorities assuring residents that animals are likely just sick dogs or coyotes. And there's a picture of this poor animal, and that's not a chupacabra. That's a sad animal. That's what that is.
It's a chalkboard with an elderly lady holding it up saying, "This is my picture of the chupacabra."
No, that's the wrong story.
Oh, really? Yeah, damn it! Here I was going to have some snarky things to say.
It's a realistic picture. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm jealous of her drawing skills. That looks like, crap. But I mean, the thing is, it needs the one that I'm looking at looks like basically, I don't know, it looks like a very sad stuffed animal that's just lying on the ground.
I'm looking at that picture now, the correct picture, mind you. And it does look like a sad stuffed animal laying on the ground, but still nowhere near as cool as the chalkboard wielding centenarian with her drawing that Greg is already scrutinizing for quality.
Well, I'm sure Walt Disney had found her years ago, and she just hasn't drawn anything since. I don't know.
No,
but
she was the original Imagineer. Like, imagine her not being there.
All right, so let's go back to Bigfoot.
Let's do that.
There's a lot of good stuff, and sometimes I'm going to have a little bit of a jokey tone to it. But honestly, I mean, what some of these people are doing is actually obviously very interesting, very cool. But there is a big 3-day hunt for Bigfoot in Crawford County. This was back. This story is from July 6th. Okay. What happened, I think, was just a little beforehand. Okay.
All right.
And so Bigfoot not found in Crawford County after group's 3-day search from Rockdale Township. The reign of the all-time hide-and-seek champion continues as recent efforts to find Bigfoot in Crawford County have failed, and comedy ensues in this article. After 3 days of searching, baiting, and filming with trip cameras, thermal imagery, no creatures were caught, detained, or otherwise encountered, according to T.J. Biscardi of Bigfoot.
Oh, boy.
What's that?
Not Mr. Biscardi.
Mr. Biscardi.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Biscardi. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Biscardi. He was, if this is the same one, and I could be wrong here, and so if I am
the
wrong,
other
please.
T.J. Biscardi.
Yeah, and in fact, let me bring Eric in because he is. Okay, let me dial him up. He will tell you about Mr. Biscardi. Mr. Biscardi, do you remember back in the day when there was a guy running around, and he claimed that he had gotten this Bigfoot, Rick Dyer, right?
Yeah.
He says, "Oh my God, I got a Bigfoot, and I got it, and it's right here. It's on ice. Everyone could come see it." And of course, he won't give it to. He wouldn't allow anyone to give it scientific scrutiny. He'd charge you $1.50 to go see it, and then shovel you through. Well, allegedly, and I do stress allegedly, this individual that we had just mentioned was in on this alleged hoax. So whenever I see that name pop up, which it has every now and again, I go, Tom Biscardi, huh? Now you're using good old TJ. So that's why I went, really loudly. So go ahead, sir. I did not mean to butt in on you. It's just that when I see Tom Biscardi, I go, oh my God.
You're giving contextual information to make the story richer.
I'm trying. I am trying.
Right. Well, speaking of richer, the company is offering a bounty of $1 million to anyone to provide information leading to the capture or delivery of a bona fide Bigfoot, and came to Crawford County in late June to follow up on what Biscardi considered credible reports of a sighting last fall. The fact that no creatures were captured during the expedition shouldn't be taken as evidence that they're not out there, Biscardi says, and I would agree with that 100%.
Oh yeah, I would too.
That's the basis of this.
Yeah, the basis of it, and just the article is just like, what? Okay, number one, there have been a lot of credible minds, a lot of people, a lot of credentials, like with PhDs at the end of their story, at the end of their name. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, for instance, that have looked for Bigfoot their entire careers and have pretty much unlimited funding to do so. That whatever you need, you got a carte blanche. Here you go. This is all the stuff that you need. If somebody like him cannot find a Bigfoot. With all the knowledge and all the resources, I have a hard time believing Tom Biscardi would have any better luck.
I think he would have a better chance of finding Bigfoot than finding the $1 million he would owe to the person who found him. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, Eric Altman, are you with us, sir?
Hello, guys.
Hey, Eric. We stumbled upon a story with, I don't want to say your buddy. And again, everybody, this is our guest tonight, Mr. Eric Altman. He happens to be a good friend of mine. So I don't feel bad about pulling him in because I know he's done radio for a little while. So, I don't feel so bad about that. But the name Tom Biscardi just came across my desk.
God.
What's that old God about, Eric? What's up with that?
I'm not a fan. I never have been a fan. I don't want to get into the details of it, but I'm just not a fan of his. Well, he has a pretty notorious reputation.
Exactly. He happens to be, we are doing, of course, the Bigfoot news right now, and he happens to be in this article. And so being that he is in this article, I thought maybe it'd be opportune time to bring you in and maybe, shed some light on the, I guess, hitting the ground running, the kind of hoaxes that you as a researcher have put up with over the years.
Mm-hmm. Quite a few, actually, whether they're directly dealing with the research I've done or in the Bigfoot research community in general. I mean, there's been a lot. There's been, of course, the infamous 2008 Bigfoot costume in a freezer.
Yeah.
Exactly. I almost fell for that. I remember we were doing radio together, I think, at that time. I mean, we knew each other, and I was getting ready to go down there and look at this thing, and you're like, Joel, don't do it. It's a hoax, man. It's a hoax. What? He claims he has a Bigfoot, Eric. No, he does not. He probably does not have a Bigfoot. Just settle down. I remember that conversation.
When you see the pictures of it, it's so horrible. I mean, it's so horrible that it's like, how could anyone have ever believed it to begin with?
Well, when it first was released, a lot of people bought into it. It was amazing how many people were buying into it. But when they first came out, I mean, it was so bad. They were putting YouTube videos out with the Night Rider theme music. And they were called Bigfoot trackers, the best Bigfoot hunters in the world. And they perpetrated this hoax that they had a body that they shot and killed a creature in the northern mountains of Georgia. And they covered this furry costume with garbage bags. And they kept, with the camera real shaky, of course, and zooming in fast. Quick shots. They took pictures and videos of this garbage bag. And they teased people. And a good friend of mine, Steve Calls, the Squatch detective, they were on his radio show. And, of course, Steve was working for Searching for Bigfoot at that time. He was working with Tom Biscardi doing research, and that's how Tom got involved. They said, well, I know somebody that has money who can take the time and come down and look at this thing, and they put Tom in touch with these two jokers. And, of course, as we found out afterwards that Tom had seen the body, he claimed he had touched it, poked at it, and prodded it. He even claimed to one of the newscasters on Fox News that it was real. And he made claims that he poked it, prodded it, touched it. He even said, it's as real as you are sitting there in front of the camera. And it turned out he was, I don't know if he denies he was involved with it, but he had to have had some knowledge of the hoax, because if he claims he touched it, then he would have known for sure it was a costume.
Exactly.
Why do you think, I mean, is the only benefit to doing a hoax like that, and maybe in this particular case too, the only benefit for money? I mean, is it notoriety also? I mean, obviously they have to think that they're going to be found out.
Well, a lot of hoaxers over the years do it to poke fun at the subject and those who are taking the subject matter seriously. Like, Bob Hieronymus, for example, who was supposedly the guy in the Gimlin-Patterson film suit. He claims he was the creature, but there's no proof to back up his claims other than saying, oh, yeah, I'm friends with Bob Gimlin. And he is friends with Bob Gimlin, but he can't find his way back to the film site. He doesn't know how to get there. His walk is different than what's in the film, but he claimed that. And he claimed he was duped out of $1,500 that was owed to him by Roger Patterson. That's why he came forward and made that claim in 1999.
Years ago, though, not to cut you off, a guy named Philip Morris got a hold of me. And he says, hey, I made that suit. And I was, doing radio, of course, and another show, another larger show. And I said, okay. He says, no, I made the suit. You don't understand. They bought this suit from me. And after talking to him for about an hour, the story unraveled itself, to be honest with you. I was getting ready to give this guy some airtime. Yeah,
he contradicts himself quite frequently when he tells the story. And he's never been able to duplicate a suit. He is a costume maker, I'll give him that, and he does own a costume shop. But he claimed that the suit was given to Roger, and he was asked to make the suit. He made the suit, gave it to Roger. Roger used it, and supposedly the suit disappeared. But he's never been able to duplicate or replicate the suit. Yeah. Now, if you're a costume maker and you make a suit like that, you should at least be able to replicate or duplicate a suit that at least remotely looks like the creature in the PG film. And this one didn't. So to answer your question about hoaxers and why they do what they do, there's a variety of reasons. Oh, sure. Rick Dyer was in it for notoriety and for money, and he made a lot of money. But he is in it for making money. It's a business to him. And whether he's serious about trying to find Bigfoot or if it's a scam or he's trying to scam people out of money, I don't know. But he is making money off of it. He's profiting. Yeah. And it goes on and on why people continue to hoax why they do what they do. I mean, I could tell you a story about a guy in Montana, a 40-year-old guy that thought it would be funny to dress up in a ghillie suit and walk across a 4-lane highway in the middle of the night perpetrating a Bigfoot hoax.
Boy, that's going to go off really well. I bet you it began with, hey, hold my beer and watch this.
Well, unfortunately, he got killed.
Yeah.
He got hit by 2 teenage drivers, female drivers, not once, but twice as he tried to cross the road.
Oh, my Lord. He had to have thought that out first, though, going, okay, wait a minute. It's dark. I'm going to put the suit on. My chances of living through this are actually pretty slim. Maybe I better not try this.
Definitely not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Definitely not. But, Eric, we're going to run to break quick. We come back from this unorthodox intro. We're going to give you a proper intro, sir. We'll be right back. After Hours AM, deeper cuts. Don't go anywhere. More Eric Altman right after this. Hey, you're listening to After Hours AM, and if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you like us, follow us, review us, tell your friends about us, tell grandma about us, and keep listening.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Hi, I'm Kip Parker. And I'm Charlie Parker. And we're the Parker Brothers. Hey, Charlie, what's missing from our game catalog? I don't know, Kip. Tell me. Well, you can't talk to the dead. You sure as hell can. That's why we got this brand new game called Ouija. Ouija? Well, break that down for me. Well, it's Wii because you're having a great time. And G, it's because G, aren't you having a blast because you're having a good time with the Wii. It looks like it spelled like a Chinaman got caught in there. Don't question it. Well, Ouija, Kip, tell me about it. Well, inside the package comes a flat board with all the letters of the alphabet, numbers from 0 to 9, and a yes-no written out by itself. Well, that sounds like a lot of stuff going on. It's got a lot of stuff going on indeed, Charlie. It also comes with this planchette, which hovers over the letters the dead are trying to tell you. Well, how does that work, Chip? Well, you ask the question, and then the dead move your hands in the direction of the answers. That sounds like a heck of a way to find Grandpa's slave money. Turns out it was in the attic. But the questions don't have to be as serious as slavery. You can also find out if Sally's got a crush on you. The dead like to answer all sorts of trivial questions.
Feels like they'd have better things to do with their time, Kip.
No, lost souls are lost forever, and they're really glad to help.
Well, gee, Kip, can't you just get any sort of board with numbers and letters and talk to the dead?
The dead prefer quality like anybody else. Quality you can only find at Parker & Parker.
The Ouija board, brought to you by the Parker Brothers, available in both white and colored wallworks. Separate but equal savings.
You're listening to After Hours AM. Do you have a question for the guest or even the host? That's really easy. Go ahead and email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Are you feeling like picking up the phone and being part of the show? Call us at 612-326-6874, 612-326-6874. Come be part of the madness. And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Greg Bakken.
And Greg, man, we kind of pulled Eric in out of nowhere, kind of cold, as it were, to chime in on our last story that we had because it involved a name that is a bit infamous amongst cryptozoology folk, as well as the people that don't like to be scammed. But a lot of people, I gotta give Eric. He's been a good friend of mine for a lot of years. So I want to make sure that he is one of the best Bigfoot minds I've ever met. He is the top-notch deal, and he has his own radio show, of course, which has been very successful, Beyond the Edge Radio. And he has been in the field as long as I've known him. He's been in the field. And whenever I've had a Bigfoot question, I would go to him, and he is one of the most respected people in the cryptozoology community, and I am really honored to have him on the air with us. So, Eric, without any further ado, I would like to have you come back in, and let's kind of start from the top, and got, mainly some off-the-wall questions for you, but I guess number one is, we know that you believe in Bigfoot, obviously, but how did this belief change your life, and how has it changed your life moving forward?
Well, belief is kind of a strange word to use as far as what comes to Bigfoot, because to me, belief is something you do with religion.
Sure.
You have to believe in something and put all your faith in something that may or may not exist. And that's what the Bigfoot research field is, or even the paranormal community. This may or may not exist. We know there's something there, but we just don't know exactly what it is. And that's what I've been learning over the years. I've been at this for about 20 years now. And by the way, thank you for the flattering comments. I appreciate that very much, although it's not true. But but yeah, after 20 years, I've learned that there's a lot more about the phenomenon than I ever imagined there was. It's a huge rabbit hole that once you start down, you never know where you're going to end up, because the people involved in it make up the phenomenon. The creature makes up the phenomenon. A lot of the strange things that go along with the creature, the attributes, the behavior, the encounters. There's so much involved in the Bigfoot phenomenon that it really blows your mind as to how complex this whole mystery really is. And that's something I've learned over the past 20 years is it's not just a creature. There's so much more to it than that. And I can't say that I believe in Bigfoot. Maybe I started out with that train of thought is, there's got to be something to it. I believe there is something out there. People are seeing something and experiencing something. Otherwise, we wouldn't have hundreds of years of history. We wouldn't have thousands of eyewitnesses. We wouldn't have the circumstantial and anecdotal evidence that we have. So there's something to the phenomenon. What it is, I can't figure out. And despite the technology, despite some people getting financed to do this, despite the advancement in science, the scientists that are getting involved, we've made so much progress, we still don't have a physical live or dead specimen to prove the animal exists.
So, Eric, if I can ask, so if you're saying that you don't believe necessarily, and if I'm mistaking your words, I apologize. Please correct me. But if you're saying that you don't necessarily believe in Bigfoot, what is the purpose of wanting to put so much time and energy into doing the research for it?
Well, as I said, it's a very complex subject, and it's a fascinating subject because there's so much entailed in it. It's not just the creature that's involved. It's people. It's what they're seeing, what they're claiming they're seeing, what they're claiming they're experiencing, the different personalities that are involved, the motives for doing it. And then, of course, there is the creature itself. What is this thing that people are claiming they're seeing? Is it a real flesh and blood creature? Could it be something that we're just not scientifically adept to understand at this point? Could it be, as Greg Newkirk, a good friend of mine, says, this is a ghost that people are experiencing? And it could be. We don't have any answers, and it becomes more and more intriguing to me after all this time that with the researchers in the field, and the research goes back to the 1950s when people were actively looking. We've been at this for more than half a century, almost going into 60 years now, and we still don't have any proof that, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that this creature is real. We have a lot of anecdotal, a lot of coincidental, circumstantial evidence. We have a lot of eyewitness testimony. Thousands of people report this. It's a global phenomenon. It's not just relegated to the United States or North America or Canada. This is a global phenomenon, and people are seeing something. So it's fascinating to me. The whole scope of the subject is just so complex and so much involved, and that's what keeps me really intrigued. It's not so much as to me proving the animal exists anymore. I really don't care if it's real or not. I just want to find out what people are seeing, and if they are seeing something, yeah, that'd be great to see what they are seeing and experiencing. I just don't know at this point, and I don't think we're ever going to have the real answers unless science evolves to the point where we can look past flesh and blood. We can maybe start looking in avenues that we haven't explored yet.
And I think that you answered a question that I was just about to ask, and that was, it was kind of a twofold. Did you have your own theory on whether or not there is such thing as Bigfoot? But also, if you end up having a theory or hypothesis of the answer to the big question, does that hamper the research?
No, because I keep myself open-minded. I'm willing to explore any avenue, and I think any good researcher needs to explore all avenues. And they can't be closed-minded and think, just because somebody says Bigfoot's an alien doesn't mean it really isn't an alien. It could be.
I have a hard time believing, though, I hate to bust in on you, Eric, but I have a hard time believing that he's stepping off the mothership.
I find that difficult to believe, too, but believe it or not, there are reports, and people claim that they've seen UFOs and Bigfoot together in the same location, at the same area, one shortly after another. It's happened here, even in my home state in the 1970s. There were dozens and dozens of those types of reports. So, I mean, although they're rare and they're not of the norm, they do happen. So you can't rule out that possibility. Like I said, I don't have an answer. My mentor, Stan Gordon, who I've followed his research for 35 years, he doesn't have an answer. And he's investigated those cases personally. But I keep an open mind because, as I said, we know so much about science, but science is always evolving. It's always changing, and it has to, because there's something new that happens every day that's discovered, whether it be a new animal, a new aquatic animal, a bird, insect, a new way of thinking. Quantum physics is now becoming studied. We've got 12 dimensions surrounding our current dimension that's been discovered. There's so much more that we're learning about. So science is always evolving. So you have to keep an open mind when you're looking at this subject.
Now, is there a possibility that Bigfoot is, out of our dimension? Because he touched on other dimensions. Is there a possibility that he's a multi-dimension creature, and that's exactly why we don't see him the way we should? Where you talk about him disappearing. Like I've heard story after story about, boom, thin air. Is that a possibility, do you think?
Well, sure, it's a possibility. A probability, I don't know. I can't answer that. And I can't say it's definitely a possibility because, again, I don't know if the thing's real or not. I've never seen one in person, although I know a lot of credible people that have and claim they have. But to answer your question, I don't know if it's possible for any animal, at least any animal that I'm familiar with or that science is familiar with, as science is today, that can move between dimensions. That doesn't mean Bigfoot can't do that. I don't know. I've never had the chance to ask him, but it's very possible, I guess. I mean, that would explain why we don't have a body. That would explain why people who have these bizarre encounters that say it was there and now it's not, it disappeared. Maybe that's where it's going. It's going into another dimension. And I go back to that topic of quantum physics. We're just starting to really understand quantum physics. And although it only pertains to different, very small, like atoms, for example, and how protons can do that. Maybe large animals like this animal can. I don't know. I've never been to another dimension. I've never seen another animal come out of another dimension, except when I saw Stephen King's movie The Mist. So I can't honestly say if Bigfoot is interdimensional or not, but I can't rule out that possibility because we just don't have enough information. We don't have enough solid proof to say one way or the other.
You know, it's funny because I'm a skeptic not of the fact that Bigfoot exists, but more of the human nature of people who want to quickly talk about the sightings that they've had of this creature. And I get worried when I hear about stuff about other dimensions, not saying I don't believe it, but more so concerned that people will use this as a crutch to why, I saw Bigfoot, but there's like 5 other people with him. No one saw it. Oh, he just slipped into another dimension.
Right. And the godfather of Sasquatch, as he was called, John Green, made a great statement once that you really can't solve one mystery with another mystery. It's kind of pointless to try to do that or to try to point the blame at another mystery because you're basically never going to get anywhere. So, again, this goes back to what I was saying about the theory, the whole field of Bigfoot being so complex is because there are so many different theories about what Bigfoot is and where it comes from and what it does and what it can and can't do. And you've got that fringe element in the field, or the fringe researchers, if you want to call them that have that train of thought that Bigfoot is a paranormal creature. It has that ability to morph from one dimension to another or change itself into another animal, like a skinwalker, for example. Mm-hmm. So there's so many different thoughts about it. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory that Bigfoot is an interdimensional creature because I just don't know. So I can't say for sure if it is or not. But there are people that do subscribe to that, and I don't diss them for their opinion. They're certainly entitled to their opinion and their own belief about it. But I'm just saying that we don't have enough evidence to prove it is, and we don't have enough evidence to prove it isn't. So I don't see how you could make that kind of a claim.
Yeah, kind of at that interpass of, okay, what is it? We don't know enough yet to say whether it is completely flesh and blood or whether it is a paranormal component, and that's where we're standing right now as far as the field goes, to my best judgment. Now, Greg and I were also good friends with, and you know him, Abe Del Rio. And we've had that same discussion with Abe, and we've talked about Bigfoot possibly using infrasound to stun prey or stun people, to where he uses that ability to basically raise their anxiety level so it can run away. Yeah, I mean something very similar to like an African cat might use, except not attack you, of course, but use it for the other reason to make his escape. That being said, when people do come to you, and a lot of them do, with their sighting, what's the biggest change that you see in their lives? What's their new world view of the whole thing?
Well, there's a couple. I've seen people go from rational-minded individuals, skeptically, looking at the world, that there aren't such things as monsters and strange animals and stuff like that, to having an encounter and their whole, as I called it, belief earlier, I don't like that word, but their belief system changes. They know now that these things are real, and their whole attitude and outlook towards being outdoors, being in unfamiliar areas, being in an area where they're vulnerable, really brings on anxiety and makes them very nervous about being in a situation where they could have that experience again. And then I've seen the other side of it where people embrace it and they want to know more and they become obsessed. And next thing you know, they're a full-fledged Bigfoot researcher in the woods every day, giving up family, giving up priorities like their job. They dedicate their entire life spending all their money, all their time immersed in trying to find out what they saw and learning, trying to look for answers, basically. And then there, unfortunately, are the people who become, or who get what I call Bigfoot fever. They have a legitimate sighting, and then they get that little bit of attention. They relish that attention, and they realize, wow, people are really coming to me for answers. I like this. Sure. And next thing you know, they've got a second Bigfoot sighting, and a third Bigfoot sighting, and a fourth Bigfoot sighting. And Bigfoot's in every picture they take. And Bigfoot follows them home from the woods. Bigfoot shows up in their backyard. Bigfoot's in their kitchen at night in their refrigerator. It gets really bad. So I've seen several different aspects of people's behavior, which, again, leads back to the whole thing I said about adding to the complex nature of the phenomenon.
When you're talking about the fact of people who may like it and possibly in some cases telling false stories, being for me personally, being a part of a paranormal community for some time now, when someone tells me a story about something, there's certain hallmarks to me that kind of are red flags that are like, well, I don't necessarily think that that's really what happened. Do you ever find anything that's kind of consistent in the stories that you get from people that you're like, no, I just don't believe it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's very similar to the paranormal eyewitnesses. They're telltale signs that you look for. Body language is a good indicator of they experienced something traumatic. But if they give away key things that you've heard before, or you get the sighting, so many sighting reports after all the years, you tend to know descriptions. And if they actually are familiar with the subject and they've done any research, they can spew out very common characteristics of the creature: looks, description, behavior. It's all there online for people to go and look up. It's not hard to do. So you really have to pay attention to what the eyewitness is telling you, how their behavior is, and you can pick up those key things pretty quickly.
I've used, for me anyway, I've heard some pretty outlandish tales, and then I'll hear the story and sit on it for a little bit and go back a month later and say, hey, can you tell me that story again? By the way, I kind of forgot some details. Listening to see whether they're adding to it as they're going, too. I mean, for me, that really sings a lot about what's going on when next thing you know, not only did they see a Bigfoot, but it chased them. Stuff like that. Things get added and embellished. Exactly, to get more about, factor, that shock factor.
It's when I interview people, I don't try to lead them with questions. I let them tell me their story. And I let them tell me their story I don't rush them to make them tell me their story. I let them tell it at their own pace, how they're comfortable sharing their story with me. I don't ask leading questions. I don't say, did it have blue eyes? Or was the hair gray? Or did it have 6 toes? I just let them tell me what they experienced. I take notes, mental notes and written notes. I remember what they tell me. And I keep in touch with those witnesses so that if I do have a question, I go back and I say, hey, you told me about this aspect of the creature. Tell me about that again. Or tell me what it did when it crossed the road. Or what was it doing in the dirt? And if they go back and say, oh, yeah, it was playing in the sandbox and it built a sandcastle. Well, he didn't tell me that, or she didn't tell me that in the first initial report. So I look for those kinds of signs, too. It's pretty easy to pick those things out when they're adding stuff that they didn't originally tell in the original sighting or investigation.
I want to kind of move a little bit to the intelligence of the creature, because I find that to be one of the most interesting aspects of anything to do with Bigfoot. And a couple of people have told me, and a lot of other people have told me this isn't the case, of stories of where people are in the area, and it's kind of like what Joel was talking about with Bigfoot giving off this aura of anxiety to people. The thing that I was curious about is when I've heard stories about Bigfoot speaking to people in their mind, like they're hearing the words. Do you get that often, or is that a very rare sort of thing?
I've had a few cases like that. It is kind of a rare thing. It's not something that I'm fond of because I don't hear it very often. Mm-hmm. And if it was truly something, and this is just an opinion. It's not a fact, but
sure.
In my opinion, if this was something that the creature truly did, we'd hear more about it.
Mm-hmm.
We'd hear it from a lot more eyewitnesses. We don't hear it from a lot of eyewitnesses. We only hear it from very few. So it makes me think that if these people are imagining it, or if there's truly communication, they have some kind of special gift that I can't understand or comprehend, and they're able to communicate with the Bigfoot telepathically. I don't personally believe that, but I don't know. Who's to say?
I opt to wonder. Sorry about that, Greg, but I opt to wonder if psychic mediums, can they pick up Bigfoot, being that they're so closely related to us? I mean, it's always been a question in mine. Well, can you read his mind? Can you read its thoughts? And I'm glad you guys just touched on that. Kind of answers it to me. I'm not sure that that's even really something that's even feasible to do, because of maybe the gap between us and him and the way of our own communicating.
Well, believe it or not, I've listened to, I'm sure you have too, there have been several animal communicators on podcast shows and radio shows over the years that I've heard, and a few of them have claimed, they were asked that question, are you able to communicate with a Bigfoot? And they've claimed that they've been able to talk to a Bigfoot. I just sit back and listening, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
If that's what you're saying, sure.
All right, then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it makes me wonder a little bit, too, about, like the work that you're doing in the paranormal, and then the stuff that, the Bigfoot research work. And, do they ever clash at all? Because, Joel, when you're talking about the medium and the intuitive side of it, that was where I went to first. It's like, say that this is real. Say that this whole idea of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch being able to beam into somebody's mind and speak to them, is that, if that were true, possibly be someone who is highly intuitive that could happen to? Obviously it's all conjectures. It's just a theory. But do you ever find, Eric, when you are kind of working in both realms, that you find that maybe some ideas or some theories might clash a little bit?
I haven't come across that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's possible. Especially if you're dealing in the paranormal field with the psychic mediums and the clairvoyance and that sort of thing. I've never come across one that's sat down with me and told me this is what I'm picking up and this is what I'm experiencing and this is what I'm seeing when it relates to Bigfoot. I know many, many psychics in the field, but I've never had that conversation. I can honestly say I've only talked to one gentleman by the name of Barry Strom, who is a spirit board communicator. And he told me, and he even wrote in a book, that he was able to communicate with the spirit world and learn about Bigfoot through the spirit world. It's very possible. I find Barry a great guy. I really enjoy his work, and I'm fascinated by it. I wasn't there when he did the communication, so I can't say if it's legit or not. But I guess at this point, anything's possible. I'd have to see it for myself to believe it, but who knows? Yeah,
we're kind of at that area to where, like you said earlier in the interview, anything's up for grabs. It's a wide open, way of wide open investigation field right now, and really any theory is as viable as the next theory until we get that absolute definitive answer. I guess the first thing we would need is finding a body, or God forbid, I know there's people out there as we speak hunting, actively wanting to kill a Bigfoot. Now, where do you stand on the harvesting of a Bigfoot just to prove the existence?
Well, I don't want to see any creature hunted or killed. I'm a hunter. I hunt deer, but I do that for food. And I stock my freezer when I get a deer. Mm-hmm. I'm not an avid fan of hunting animals, especially large game, just to prove the species is real. Now, I know there are groups that do that. The Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, they had a show called Killing Bigfoot.
Yeah.
That was their goal, is to rid property owners of nuisance Bigfoots and to prove one to science, that they're real. They've never succeeded, and they've been around probably longer than I've been doing this. But that's their main goal, and I wish them well, and I have no ill feelings towards the guys. I know some of the guys, as a matter of fact, and they're nice guys, they're good guys, but I don't subscribe to their line of thinking. I don't go out in the woods with a gun unless I am deer hunting. I never carry a sidearm or pistol. I carry bear mace or bear spray, but that's the extent of it. I have no intention of hurting or harming these animals. I want to see one, of course. I want to have that experience to know that they're real, but my intentions aren't to hunt or kill one of these things. I think that we can collect enough data and information through eyewitness testimony, through legitimate video footage, if there is one caught on video, audio, DNA traps can be set out, pheromone extractors can be put out, and if you come across the Bigfoot and you smell that smell, you might be able to catch some of their pheromones and study the pheromones from that.
Let me be devil's advocate for a minute. Though.
Sure.
You know what, Eric? That's all well and great. It's great we pick up scat. It's great that we, maybe get a hair sample or whatever. But we need a complete body, not only to prove they're real, but a better understanding of how to protect them in the future and what their habitat is. Now, that's the argument I've heard from like Jim Lansdale from Killing Bigfoot. We had him on the show, and that was his mentality of it.
Right.
I guess I see his idea behind it. I do, because every animal in history that we have actually found, we've killed. That is how we were able to study them and prove that they exist, and not rather than just seeing them. We've either found them in nature dead or actively killed them. This may very well be the case, but here's the problem I have, just to answer for kind of my own thinking. If we were going to be able to kill one, don't you think someone would have done it by now?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree with that. And you're absolutely right. We do need a body. That's the only way the scientific community and science, and for the most part, the general public is going to accept that this animal is real, is with a live or dead specimen. There's no way around that. I would personally prefer to see a live specimen captured, studied, and released. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe that's going to happen. So I'm hoping that we find one dead in the forest of natural causes. Now, again, I don't think that's going to happen, because as rare as these animals, I think they are, based on breeding population. And let's face it, if there were millions of these animals, like the deer population or bear population, we'd know they were real. But I don't think there's a high breeding population out there. But that's besides the point. I just don't think that going out and killing one of these things to prove they're real is the way to do it. Now, of course, Jim and Bobby Hamilton and the guys from the GCO, that's their line of thinking, and they're entitled to their opinion. And like I said, I don't knock them for having that opinion. Mm-hmm. That's what science wants. I just personally think that there's other ways that we can prove it. They've proven the bonobo ape is real just by photographs. So why can't we get some good quality, high-definition photographs taken of this creature to prove it's real?
Good point. Very good point.
And I just want to say that I really appreciate that answer, because I am not a hunter of any kind, and I do prefer animals to live. I understand why hunters hunt and why there's a need for that sort of thing. And I was listening to a different podcast about Bigfoot and whatnot, and one of the possible reasons that they theorized in that about why there hasn't been a Bigfoot shot or killed is because most of the people out there are hunters in a lot of cases, and that they're more trained to not just shoot on sight, that they make sure that they know damn well what they're aiming their gun at, because that's how they are trained, that's how they work, and that it's not necessarily just going to be, oh, something's moving, let's shoot it, that they're very it's very procedural in terms of how you hunt and how you when you shoot your weapon.
The responsible hunters do that, yes.
Yeah.
Right. The world isn't full of responsible hunters, but
right. The irresponsible hunters who are just out there drinking beer and shooting at anything that moves, they would shoot at anything. The responsible hunters don't. You're right. They take their time. They make sure that they identify the animal they're shooting at. And I've talked to hunters who have said, I put this thing in my scope. I looked at it. It looked too human to me. I don't know if it was somebody in a costume or not. I don't want to get arrested for manslaughter if I shoot and kill something I think is a Bigfoot, and it turns out it's a person in a suit.
Right.
So they run that risk.
Yeah, and a good friend of Greg and I, Mike Hexum, I'm sure you've talked to Mike before in the past, he actually saw one deer hunting. And I asked that exact question, how come you didn't shoot it? He says, because I didn't feel a need to.
And most of the hunters I've talked to say the same thing. They don't feel threatened by it. They don't feel like they need to defend themselves. And this animal isn't posing any kind of threat or harm. It's just doing what it does. So they see it. They're kind of stunned by what they see. They watch it through the scope or they watch it through their eye, however they see it. They observe it. They realize it's not any threat to them, so they let it go on its way. So a lot of responsible hunters don't feel the need to shoot it. But, of course, you always have that one hunter out there who says, I'm going to be the guy that solves the mystery and shoots it. And what if it turns out it's a young kid, and a teenager or a young kid in a Bigfoot costume out there trying to perpetrate a hoax?
Very true. Very true. We got to run a break, though, guys. While this interview is just flying by, really enjoying it. Very informative. We'll be right back with more Eric Altman. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Hey, you're listening to After Hours AM, and if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you like us, follow us, review us, tell your friends about us, tell grandma about us, and keep listening.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin' Street? Girlin' Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to After Hours AM. Do you have a question for the guests or even the host? That's really easy. Go ahead and email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Are you feeling like picking up the phone and being part of the show? Call us at 612-326-6874, 612-326-6874. Come be part of the madness.
This is Chad Lewis. I'm out on the road legend tripping. You need to stop what you're doing and tune in to After Hours AM. You will not be disappointed.
To After Hours AM. This is Deeper Cuts. This is Tuesday. We are in the last half hour of our program tonight. My name is Greg Bakken, and tonight we have co-host as usual, Joel Sturgis. How are you doing, Joel?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. Doing good.
Tonight we have our very special guest, Eric Altman, who we call him a Bigfoot researcher, cryptozoologist, field investigator, paranormal enthusiast, radio host, producer. The list goes on and on. How are you doing?
A little itchy, but other than that, doing well.
Well, but first and foremost, for all of us, Eric is a friend, and I mean that honestly. So it's nice to have friends that are so knowledgeable on the subject matter they can call upon. Now, just really quick. Now, I just want to kind of bust in here right away and talk about Dogman. I've been getting more Dogman reports than anything in this world right now. What the hell, Eric, is up with this Dogman thing?
I'm trying to wrap my head around the whole subject. I don't know if it's hysteria. People are legitimately seeing what they're claiming they're seeing. Much like Bigfoot, Dogman has yet to be proven to exist. The sightings are on the increase. This whole phenomenon started basically in Wisconsin, in the Michigan area. Linda Godfrey, good friend of ours, she's pretty much the godmother, if you will, of the Dogman phenomenon, writing many books about it, and of course investigating the famous Beast of Bray Road cases up in northern Wisconsin. And it's a phenomenon that started out in that area, but we were finding out that these Dogman sightings actually go back a lot longer than we first thought, hundreds of years. And they're showing up in Ohio. They're showing up in Pennsylvania. Good friends of mine, Lon Strickland and Butch Witkowski, have received and investigated dozens of, as they call them, lichen reports or upright walking canid reports. I don't know if it's a mass hysteria thing and people are just jumping on the bandwagon. I have not had the opportunity to go out and investigate a Dogman case, although I've received a few here in the area that I could have if the witness would have cooperated. But I'm not sure what to make of it at this point. It's a fascinating phenomenon, and if it is a legitimate phenomenon, these things are really being seen, it's a pretty scary phenomenon.
It kind of reminds me, in a sense, of on like the paranormal side of things when you have like the black-eyed children or you have Slim Man, and suddenly next thing you know, everybody is seeing these sort of things, and that's kind of what the whole Dogman thing feels like a little bit.
It does, and that's why I said I don't know if it's a hysteria thing or what, because, like I said, it started out in Wisconsin and up in the northern Michigan area, where these cases were only really coming forward in that area. But then they migrated into Ohio, and next thing you know, you've got Dogman groups investigating cases, and they're scattering and spreading like wildfire. And 30 years ago, we weren't hearing about these cases that often. It was something very rare. So has Bigfoot become kind of stale and Dogman is the next big cryptid? I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm not knocking the subject. I'm not knocking those who research the subject. But these cases weren't out and about as present and predominant as they are now 10, 15, 20 years ago. We weren't hearing about these things.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of it.
Well, I've gotten reports of Bigfoot versus Dogman, almost like a Mothra versus Godzilla kind of scenario where they're fighting in the woods. I've got hunters watching them take down deer and standing up and snarling at them. I've got Dogmen in bathrobes, you name it. I've got the report being a radio host, and it's like, are you flipping kidding me? Put the bong down, and it's probably a big German shepherd that scared the hell out of you, more than likely, or something on that order. Doesn't mean it's a Dogman. It just means that maybe you're hysterical about something. But then again, you get that rare message that sounds so sincere. This is what I saw. This is what happened. And they go right down the list, and you can't go anything but go, oh, my God, I don't want to run into that.
Well, exactly. And that's why I don't know what's really going on with it. Like the Bigfoot phenomenon, getting back to that for a quick second, you get those reports and those sighting encounters once in a while that you step back and say, wow, that guy really, or that woman really saw what they claim they saw. They believe, and you believe, they're saying what they saw is true because they're so convincing. They're so sincere, and they come across so honest, and they have a reputation to back it up, and they're not looking for the notoriety or publicity. So all those things factor in, of course. And with the Dogman cases as well, you got to step back. And some of those cases you hear from sometimes you go, wow, maybe they really did see a Dogman.
Do you feel that might be, because you mentioned the idea of like, is this has Bigfoot become stale? This is the next thing. I mean, like, it almost feels like that was kind of the case also, like the chupacabra. I don't think anyone really saw or at least reported one until like 1994 or something like that. I mean, it's kind of the second tier of the cryptozoology sort of creatures a little bit.
Yeah, from my impression, and again, this is just my opinion and my impression, and it's not necessarily fact, so people don't take it as such. But my opinion and my impression, being involved in this, actively investigating for 20 years and studying the phenomenon for, close to 37 years, I've seen it come in waves. I've seen one cryptid become popular and really take off, and people have this passion and excitement about the cryptid. Then it kind of dies out, like lake monsters, for example. Mm-hmm. In the 70s, it was the huge thing. Loch Ness was huge. You couldn't swing a dead cat without hearing about a Loch Ness sighting.
But high-def cameras, Eric, could kind of put that one to rest, because now people are realizing that, wait a minute, those are waves causing that look. You know, that the technology in cameras back then was so horrible. Now we got these ultra HD cameras where you can pretty much see the gnats on a bull's butt. So now, from 100 yards, okay, that's waves. Greg and I, we're both students of the story, because I mean that's really what gets us, is the story, the human condition behind the phenomena. Right. What is the scariest cryptid story you've ever heard that even made you go, "Oh my God, this is kind of a scary situation"?
People being harassed by Bigfoot, having their domestic animals, cats, killed, dogs disappearing on family properties, and this thing pounding on the sides of homes and looking in windows and talking with witnesses who literally break down and cry because they're afraid to go outside at night. That, to me, they're experiencing something. I can't say it was a Bigfoot that's doing it. It could be anything. You can't rule that out. But seeing that family go through what they're going through, and they're believing what they're believing is responsible, that's traumatic to them. And I feel for them. And if they are telling the truth and those Bigfoot are coming up on their property, beating on the house and killing their cats and killing their dogs and terrorizing the family, I don't want to be in a situation like that. That's truly traumatic and terrorizing for anybody. So if that is really happening, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I'd love to see it, love to see the creature, maybe from a little safe distance.
Yeah.
But, somebody that says, I was sitting in my kitchen and this thing looked in through the kitchen window at me at night, and I happen to look back and see it staring 2 feet away from me, that's got to be terrorizing to see something you've never seen before. So stories like that really compel me. They really compel me to keep doing the research and investigating to find out what people are seeing. And that's terrorizing, I think, in itself. I have not heard of any cases where a Bigfoot, and these are recent cases, where a Bigfoot has physically attacked somebody, gone after them, or hurt them, beat them up, killed anybody. So I don't know that aspect of things. I know there's historical cases like Bigfoot attacking people, or President Teddy Roosevelt wrote about in The Wilderness Hunter, the book he wrote about a trapper that was killed. So there are historical stories out there. But I would have to say that the most traumatic are people that are living it and having continued encounters where the creature is very aggressive or showing aggressive displays of behavior.
When you are getting those stories of the aggressive behavior, especially like Bigfoot looking into people's houses and whatnot, the type of area where they live, is it consistent? I mean, such as like deep, more into the woods, or do you even get them where they're further out of the woods?
I've had them both. I had a family, a single mother, I should say a divorced mother, and her son lived in a little farmhouse just outside of the town of DuBois, Pennsylvania, and literally a mile and a half from the city limits. So they weren't in deep rural woods, but the town of DuBois sits in the base of the Rockton Mountain. It's probably about 10 or 15 miles from the actual peaks of the Rockton Mountain, but close enough that there's still wilderness and forests that abut up against the town. And they lived about a mile and a half outside of town, and they were being traumatized This was back in 2004. They were having a Bigfoot come around their property. It was coming around their house late at night. They could smell it as it came around the property. Mm-hmm. They had domesticated cats one by one that would disappear. We found remains of some of the cats on the hillside above their home. We found the cats were basically ripped in half.
Wow.
The dogs disappeared. Two of the dogs they had on the property, a Beagle and a Doberman, were so traumatized by this thing coming around, their behavior changed when the sun went down. They became terrified, would whimper, would cry, would pace back and forth, would want in the house. And I watched that myself. They went from being friendly, happy dogs, playful, running back and forth on their leads. Sun goes down, their behavior changed almost 180 degrees. They went from to being happy and upbeat and positive to terrified, tail tucked between their legs, whimpering, crying, wanting in the house. It was amazing to see the transformation.
Wow.
So I knew there was something going on the property. We never saw anything. We heard some things on the hillside above us one night, but we never saw what it was. But hearing the woman's story of her laying in her bedroom one night and hearing this creature kill one of her cats and how it traumatically affected her, and she had a tape recording of it, and we listened to it, and we sat in the kitchen listening to this, looking at each other like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's scary, but it's amazing to hear something like that.
Wow.
I would be scared. I'd be like, hey, lady, it was really nice meeting you, but I gotta go. Hey, it's been awesome. But no, actually, I wouldn't. I would do my best to help them. I'd call in qualified people such as yourself to look into that claim, because that is life-changing for the witness. Mm-hmm. That is life-changing for the ones being inflicted by that kind of abuse, by this unknown assailant. That changes them. They become completely different people. And I remember, I can't remember exactly the story, but there were some individuals, and maybe you could tell the story, that were under siege by some unknown creatures, like throughout the night, where they were firing at it and there's guns involved and everything else. Do you remember that story, Eric, or am I jogging the wrong memory?
There's been several stories like that over the years that have happened. The most famous took place in 1924 in what's now known as Ape Canyon in Mount St. Helens, where, and the gentleman's name escapes me at the moment, but he wrote a book called I Fought the Mountain Devils of Mount St. Helens. And it was a group of prospectors who were up on the mountain prospecting a claim. They saw one of these creatures, they shot at it, and it disappeared into the forest. They don't know if they hit it or not, but it disappeared into the forest. And that night, their cabin was besieged by, as they called them, mountain devils. These hairy, man-like wild men attacked their cabin, both on top from the ridges down, throwing boulders on top of the cabin, pounding on the walls, trying to break in the doors. And to fight these things off, the men used their guns, rifles, and shotguns, putting them out through the chinks in the logs, shooting blindly into the night to try to draw these creatures off, drive them off. And eventually, by morning, they were successful in driving the creatures off. And when they went outside, they found the canyon where the cabin was scattered boulders all over the place, giant human-like footprints all over the place. There was definitely a sign that a siege took place. And one of the more famous stories that's out there, unfortunately, I can't think of the guy's name, and I should know this because it's one of my favorite Bigfoot stories, but it's a fascinating tale, and that's how Ape Canyon got its name up in Mount St. Helens.
You know, it's frightening, and I've heard people theorize that if you ended up hurting one of the Bigfoot, like the rest of the clan would attack. I mean, that seems consistent, at least with a story like that.
Yeah, that's been theorized. That's one reason why people don't shoot at them, is because you don't know if another Bigfoot's nearby, and you don't want to run the risk of hitting one of these Bigfoot creatures. And next thing you know, you're being attacked by the rest of the clan. People have brought that up and said, yeah, that's a good possibility. And it might be. I can't say for sure, it is not, but it might be. And the gentleman's name, by the way, was Fred Beck.
Okay.
He wrote the book, Fred Beck, his Fighting Off the Mountain Devils of Mount St. Helens.
And I just have, sorry, one more question, because mountain devils, that terminology. When was the term Bigfoot first brought into our consciousness?
I believe it was October 8th, 1958.
Well, you had a whole date. I didn't expect that.
Wow.
That's cool. At 4:30 p.m.
A news reporter, no doubt.
Yeah. Before that, they were called wild men, and they're documented in history. You can look up newspaper articles going way back to the early 1800s of people having encounters with wild men. The term Bigfoot was coined in October of 1958. Jerry Crew was a foreman or a construction worker, and near Bluff Creek, California, they were putting in a logging road. They were clearing brush and timber and building a logging road. And while they were up there working, they leave on weekends to go home to their families and cabins and whatnot. And they return on Monday to find large human-like footprints all around the bulldozers, the moving equipment, and that sort of thing. And Jerry Crew eventually made some castings of the tracks because people weren't believing them when they were told these stories. So he made some castings of the tracks and took them to the Humboldt Times newspaper. And in 1958, the term Bigfoot was coined.
That is actually, I was kind of wondering how that came into our lexicon of speech. When did Bigfoot actually, where did that name come from other than just a monster truck you see? And that explains it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving forward,
Sure.
you talk about people having, fighting off these Bigfoot and fighting off these devils. Do you believe that there's a species of Bigfoot that are more aggressive than others? Because I've heard murmurings about a three-toe Bigfoot.
Yeah, there have been three-toed tracks that have been found around the country. Probably the more famous ones were from Boggy Creek in Fouke, Arkansas, back in the 1960s. There were three-toed tracks found in a bean field down there. And even in Pennsylvania, Stan Gordon has a three-toed cast that he found in August of 1973. So there are three toes, there have been four toes, five toes, and even six toes that have been reported in some of these tracks. I don't necessarily know if the lack of toes plays a role in the aggressiveness of Bigfoot,
sure,
a meaner Bigfoot because it's missing toes, but there have been people who have suggested that there are aggressive types of creatures in different areas of the country. Like, for example, in the Gulf Coast states, they say it's a more aggressive creature. It's more territorial, displays more defensive behavior, aggressive behavior towards humans and animals and whatnot. And as funny as it sounds, in the Pacific Northwest, some people call Bigfoot the tree-hugging hippie Bigfoot. I don't know why, but
that's
they do.
The Bigfoot I want to meet.
The gentler, kindler.
Yeah, I want to meet the Harry and the Hendersons Bigfoot. I don't want to meet the one that wants to rip me apart.
Yeah,
you don't want to meet Sasquatch from Jack Links. You don't want to meet him.
No, he's mad.
He's angry.
He's not happy. That's what happens.
He has more than three toes. I know that for a fact.
That's what happens when you put his hands in warm bowls of water.
Exactly. Thank you. You don't do that to wild animals.
No, they get a little angry.
There are people that speculate in different environments in different areas of the country. They display different types of behaviors.
And why do you think that is? I mean, is it geography? Why do they seem to be more aggressive in Region A than they are in Region B?
It could be a lot of factors. It could be geography. It could be food sources. It could be people shooting at them. People out in the woods taking pot shots at them and forcing them to retaliate. I don't know. I really don't know why they act the way they do, or why they do the things they do, or even if they do the things they do that people describe. All I can tell you is eyewitnesses and people theorize that in certain areas of the country they display a more aggressive behavior than other parts of the country, and it could be based on climate. I mean, of course, it is hotter and muggier in the swamps and the bayous and the Gulf Coast states, and therefore maybe the creature just doesn't like that environment, and it's going to be a little mad because it's got matted fur and mud and fur and stuff like that. I don't know. It's all speculation. It's all hypothesis. It's a lot of guesswork.
Well, maybe, just maybe, the Gulf Coast is the retirement home for Bigfoot, and you get the crabby ones that are showing up to retire. And that's
the in Florida.
Exactly.
People get off their lawn and
damn kids.
Damn you, get out of here.
So can we talk about hair real fast? Because everyone wants to talk about hair. I'm talking with Mike Hexum about his encounters and stuff. The first one he had seen that didn't have any hair, which I've never would have ever imagined ever. And then the second one did have hair. Obviously that could also be a regional thing too. Have you heard a lot about that sort of thing?
I've heard cases of people saying that they've seen creatures that have mange or mange-like condition where they're missing a lot of hair.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I talked to actually one of the first people in Bigfoot research that I got to know very well and became good friends with, a guy named Sam Sherry. His encounter in 1985 or 86 was with the hairless covered Bigfoot that had a mohawk. So
the Mr.
That's what he told
Bigfoot.
me. That's what the report says.
I'll pay to the pool.
Yeah, but I've heard about them. It may be cases of illness. It may be cases of age. There's a lot of contributing factors, parasites, mange. Who knows why the creature that Mike saw didn't have any hair the first time? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, other animals commonly lose their hair. Age causes it. Parasites, different skin conditions cause hair to fall out. Maybe that's what he saw.
That's true.
Yeah, could be. And I've always wondered, there's a small town, I know you've heard of it, in northern Minnesota called Reamer, that has recently laid claim to be the home of Bigfoot.
Yep.
And Greg and I were both there. We were there with Abe Del Rio, of course. And these people, though, we were talking about the top of the show, are so convinced that there are Bigfoot there that, really, Eric, they are completely convincing. And they have sightings on a pretty frequent level. Like, to the point to where when they see one, it's like, no big deal. And keep on driving down the road. And that's really how it came across us. In fact, they're so comfortable with the Bigfoot, they have a big Bigfoot festival.
Yep.
And so really, to them, it's no big deal. But to us, coming to this little town, which 300 people live there,
yep,
all going, oh my God, there's these Bigfoot here. And they're like, yeah, you get used to it. I don't know if I could ever get used to something like that. Seeing an 8-foot hairy man walk across the road. Now, I get it. I get it. Part of it is for the fact that, they're trying to make money, commerce for their town. But I have to say, the woods at night, I went out with Abe one night, Del Rio, and because I said, before I can make a real decision on this, I have to go out and try it. The woods at night are a very eerie place. They really are.
Yep.
And so now my question, a long way around because we run out of time, is when are people more apt to see a Bigfoot? Night or day? When does it seem like that's the time?
They have to be in the right place at the right time.
Gotcha. So an AM, PM really doesn't play into it.
No. It used to be thought that these creatures were nocturnal, and it would make sense because they can move around more freely at night without being seen. They can hunt for food, forage for food, travel, and they're less likely to encounter people at night. So that was the mindset. But over the years, the reports show an equal amount of daytime sightings and nighttime sightings, more so daytime sightings than nighttime sightings. So I think really the person who has a Bigfoot sighting is in the right place at the right time, and it's an accidental sighting. I don't think these creatures are necessarily making themselves known to us. Otherwise, we'd have the conclusive proof. I think it's an accidental thing where, as I said, the man or woman or whoever's out there is in the right place at the right time. It's an accidental thing, and they last very short frequency of time, and then, boom, it's over.
Wow. That makes more sense than anything else I've heard in a long time. How about you, Greg?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's just it. It's classic that we would think that Bigfoot would only be seen at a certain time just because that's when we see them, and that's not the case.
No, people claim they see them during the day and night.
Sure.
It does make more sense at night, though, because they can move around more freely, and they're less apt to be seen by people at night because we're not out genuinely in the woods at night unless you're camping or hunting or something to that effect. But there's not a lot of people out at night in the woods. They're more out during the day.
Very true. Very true. Eric, I hate to say it, we've already come to an end of another interview, and why don't you tell the folks how they can get a hold of you, talk to you, maybe submit their own sighting to you?
Well, I'm on Facebook at Eric H. Altman. You can see my bald-headed ugly mug there. if you look up my name. I have a website, ericaltman.net. You can reach me through that. BeyondTheEdgeRadio.com. That's the podcast that Maurice Samuels and I do right now on hiatus while I finish moving the house and getting everything ready here. But we should be back sometime late August, early September. And they can get through to me through that website, BeyondTheEdgeRadio.com. And my email is bigfootboy_2000 @yahoo.com. You can drop me a line there as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I guess, Greg, it's time to say goodnight to everybody and thank them for listening to this edition of After Hours AM Deeper Cuts. Look deeper into Bigfoot. You just might see him. Remember, the woods are kind of a scary place at night, and you just never know what you're going to stumble upon. Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM, and please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.